You should be grateful. We're helping you out. That was the subject line of the email from HR. No hello, no soft opening, just a fluorescent slap of fake cheer in my inbox at 8:04 a.m., like a surgeon bragging he amputated the wrong leg, but hey, at least the stitches were symmetrical. My name is Linda. For 16 years, I was the shadow running a mid-sized logistics firm smoother than it deserved. I wasn't the CEO or the loud-tie VP of sales with an even louder ego. I was the one keeping the rules intact. Payroll balanced. Contractors classified. Labor filings submitted on time, every time. Invisible labor. Crucial labor. The kind that holds a company upright though no one applauds it at quarterly town halls. I wasn't telling jokes by the water cooler. I wasn't frosting cupcakes for Carol in accounting. But when health insurance vanished mid-treatment or overtime checks went missing, who fixed it? Me. Always me. Quiet Linda with the messy desk and the brain of an IRS examiner. And what did I get? A title scraped from the bottom of an org chart. Operations Specialist 2. Which in plain speech meant duct tape, aspirin, mop crew for corporate sewage. So when HR blasted me with that email, you should be grateful. We're helping you out. I didn't blink. Didn't sob. Didn't even let my coffee cool. Because after 16 years fixing disasters, you learn two truths. 1. People always misjudge the quiet one. 2. Every system leaves receipts. Let me rewind. It began with a vague invite. Quick sync. HR and OPS. That kind of subject smells like bleach and bad omens. I walked in, found Janice from HR perched at the table, her grin stapled on. Beside her, a jittery intern clicked a pen like she was about to announce my lottery win. Linda, Janice began, her voice cavity sweet. We thank you for your many years of service. Truly invaluable. Translation, Career Execution Notice. We've been strategically restructuring, she recited from her script. Unfortunately, your role has been marked redundant. Redundant. It hung in the air like spoiled milk. Redundant, like I was an expired paperclip or outdated license. Then the dagger. But honestly, this is a gift to you, Janice chirped, as though handing me a ticket to nowhere. A chance to explore new doors. We're even granting a modest severance. That word, gift, lit something deep in me. Gifts are lunch covers. Gifts are watering plants during vacation. Gifts are not gutting someone's career after 16 years of loyalty. I didn't shout, didn't fling coffee, didn't raise an eyebrow. I didn't need to. I held something sharper than rage. Records. 16 years of audit trails, compliance memos, and policies that could crack the foundation. I nodded once. Understood. I said, calm, professional, the kind of calm that deserves hazard tape. Janice misread it as surrender. She smiled wider, slid me a flimsy manila folder. Exit packet. Cheap ink. You'll be fine, Linda. We're helping you out. I left quietly, past the office plants older than most interns, sat back at my desk. My fingers hovered. I reread Janice's email twice. That phrase again. Helping you out. Then I acted. A simple reply. For words. Thanks for confirming. Then, like a pinch of salt, I added one more thing. A quiet CC to the State Labor Board's wage and hour division. No rant, no speech, no fury, just courtesy. Because when you've cataloged 16 years of compliance, you don't need fire. You need light. I hit send, took a sip of bitter coffee, smiled. They thought they'd done me a favor. They had no clue what storm they'd unleashed. 1 hour later, my phone buzzed. Unknown caller. I let it ring until voicemail picked it up. 3 minutes later, the phone buzzed again. Same number. I exhaled, pushed my chair back, and answered. Linda. The voice was taut, clipped, like it was choking on air. Robert. The CFO. The same Robert who once forwarded my 18-page compliance memo to his assistant with a note. Summarize this in 3 bullets. Yes, I said, tone as flat as a forecast. What did you do? His voice cracked around the edges. 7 years of payroll under review. The labor board's already involved. I glanced at my inbox. My reply sat there, polite, professional, harmless on the surface. I asked for clarification, I said, and copied the state. That's all. Silence. A silence that sweated through the line. Finally, he muttered, "You don't understand what this could mean." Oh, but I did. I understood perfectly. By afternoon, the rumors moved faster than gossip after a holiday party. Carla from Ops pinged me from her personal account. "What did you do? Everyone looks like they've seen a ghost." I didn't reply. I leaned back, thought about it. Because here's the truth. I hadn't gone nuclear. I hadn't marched out or phoned a lawyer. I hadn't dumped files to the press. I just shined a light in the corner they never swept. And that was enough. The next morning, panic crept into daylight. HR blasted a memo, friendly reminder. Confidentiality in employment matters. Wrapped in best practice lingo, dripping with fear. During this period of review, avoid sharing internal processes externally. Misunderstandings escalate unnecessarily. Translation: don't be Linda. I laughed. They thought spin could fix this. But the labor board doesn't care about spin. They care about documentation. And I knew exactly which files would make them choke. By lunch, another forward landed. From a mole in finance. Subject: urgent. Contractor archive audit. Start date: 2016. There it was, the crack spreading. Because here's the thing with companies built on duct tape and denial. Tug one thread, the whole patch tears. Misclassified contractors. Wrong overtime logs. Missing I-9s. Every piece lived in files I had flagged, fixed, or tucked away for years. I didn't keep grudges. I kept memory, sharp as a cabinet edge. That evening, Carla texted again. Whiteboard meeting today. Phrases like liability exposure and retro pay everywhere. People sweating Linda. I didn't answer. I poured wine, stroked the cat purring in my lap, and savored the irony. For years, they brushed off my emails, my flags, my quiet warnings. Not urgent. We'll circle back. And now, the circle closed. Understand this. I wasn't after revenge. Not really. I wanted acknowledgement. Proof my work mattered, that invisible compliance labor wasn't disposable. But when you shove someone in a corner and call it a favor, don't be shocked when they step out carrying receipts. 2 days later, whispers thickened into fog. Slack threads fell silent. Memes and inside jokes vanished. New threads popped up. Hashtag urgent doc review. Hashtag policy align. Robert, the CFO, hadn't been seen near the cafeteria. Rumor was he was barricaded with outside counsel. Janice from HR spotted crying in the restroom. And Jeff from accounting? Oh, Jeff, heard mumbling, "What the hell is a 1099B2 modifier?" Like a man bargaining with heaven. Me? I sat at home with coffee, watering my plant, watching it all burn without lifting another finger. Because the truth is, I hadn't set ablaze. I just handed the fire marshal the inspection report. The irony? My name never lived on a single office door. I never got applause, trips, or bonuses. I was invisible. But invisibility was my blade. They never knew how much I'd seen, how much I'd logged, how many warnings I'd. ***. Quietly archived, brushed aside, because nobody wanted to deal with minor compliance issues. Now, those tiny issues were the quake rattling their glass tower. And all it had taken was one email, for words, one CC. The formal letter arrived Tuesday morning. 2 pages. Polite devastation, stamped and signed by the State Labor Board's regional office. Pursuant to the inquiry received, our team will conduct a payroll and classification audit beginning Thursday. 7 years of records, payroll logs, contractor agreements, overtime policies, even internal communications if necessary. Clinical. Detached. Almost dull in its language. But to anyone in compliance, it was thunder breaking over a boardroom. By noon, half the execs had it in their inbox. By 2, a copy was taped to HR's door like a cursed artifact. By 5, Robert, the CFO, had slipped home early, muttering about mitigation strategies. I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I brewed bitter coffee and sat at my kitchen table with Deborah, my stubborn little desk plant now thriving under her LED lamp. Unlike the executives, she was doing just fine. That's the thing about power. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it's simply having receipts while everyone else scrambles for excuses. And I had all of them. That night, Carla sent a blurry photo from conference room C. A whiteboard covered in frantic red marker. Payroll audit prep. Action items. Retrieve contractor files 2016 to 2022. Review overtime classifications. Cross-check exempt grids. Confirm I-9s. It looked less like a meeting plan and more like a crime scene log. She added, "You should see their faces, Linda. Like someone pulled a fire alarm in church." I smiled. Not at their panic, but at the sudden gravity finally given to work I'd been doing for years in silence. The next morning, a memo went wide. As part of ongoing internal improvements, HR and finance will review records. Please respond promptly. Ongoing improvements, spin for survival. But cracks don't hide behind buzzwords. Former coworkers ping me privately. Is it true they're pulling 7 years of payroll? One asked. Another whispered legal had flown in a compliance specialist. Jeff from accounting reportedly snapped when told to produce contractor expense notes from 2016. Who even keeps that long? He'd shouted until someone reminded him. I did. That evening, Robert called again. His tone softer, pleading. Linda, listen. If this audit widens, we're talking penalties, back pay, fines, investors walking. Are you sure you want this? I sipped my coffee, let the silence bite, then answered. I didn't want anything. I asked a question. The rest is your documentation. He exhaled, a sound like surrender leaking through the line. This could destroy us. I almost pitied him. But then I saw Janice's chirpy grin in that meeting, her cheap manila envelope, the words doing you a favor. I wasn't destroying them. They were choking on their own shortcuts, finally forced to face what they buried. By Thursday, the office resembled a bunker. Legal boxes stacked high. Laptops ferried like stretchers. Emails stripped to one-liners. All jokes vanished. Carla's last message of the week said it best. Linda, they tape your email to HR store. People call it the trigger. I stared at my screen, then laughed quietly. Because it wasn't my email that caused the collapse. It wasn't me at all. It was them, their arrogance, their shortcuts, their blind faith that the quiet worker would never fight back, never know how to make the system listen. And now the system was listening. That night, I poured wine, leaned back in my chair, and watched the city lights flicker across the window pane. Asterisk, asterisk. Somewhere downtown, in a towering glass building, executives scrambled to cover their tracks, desperately searching for old paperwork and inventing excuses for years of negligence. Me? I had nothing left to prove. 16 years of cleaning up their disasters had been more than enough. Now, finally, the chaos belonged to them, and the storm was only beginning. The auditors arrived that Thursday under gray skies. No sirens, no flashing cameras, just two officials in dark suits carrying clipboards and briefcases. Not FBI agents with guns. Not reporters with microphones. Just professionals who lived and breathed compliance. The type who could dismantle careers with a raised eyebrow and a citation. Inside, panic had already set in. Carla messaged me before 9. They're here. Actual labor board people. Suits, badges, everything. The office looks like a bunker. I imagine the scene. Whiteboards scrubbed clean, binders stacked in rows, finance staff pacing, HR interns pretending to help by handing out water, while Robert, the CFO, fought to sound calm even as the floor gave way beneath him. I wasn't there. I was at home in sweatpants sipping my coffee. But my phone buzzed nonstop with live updates. They want overtime logs from 2017. Carla texted. Legal looks pale. Janice keeps repeating operational optimization like it's a spell. I leaned back, my little plant Deborah soaking in sunlight from the window. For once, I wasn't fixing anything. I was just watching, and it felt like justice. That's what most people miss about audits. They aren't explosive. They're slow, suffocating, relentless. They don't shout. They dig. One document leads to another, then to the file you thought you'd never need from 2016. By mid-afternoon, Carla texted again. They asked for 2018 contractor agreements. Janice swore they're archived. Auditors told her to prove it. She froze. I didn't need to be there. I knew what those files lacked. Misclassified workers treated like contractors. Notes I'd flagged long ago, but ignored as not urgent. Suddenly urgent. The next morning, the company issued another memo. As part of cooperation with state auditors, please provide requested records immediately. Confidentiality is critical. Confidentiality, that magic word they always used when the walls began to collapse. But no phrase could hide years of corner cutting. Not the Fridays directors clocked out early, but billed full hours. Not the contractors who worked full weeks without benefits. The auditors weren't fooled. They wanted proof. Robert called again that night. His voice was cracked now, desperation bleeding through. Linda, if there's anything you can clarify. I stopped him cold. I'm not involved anymore. You don't get it, he whispered. Back pay. Penalties. 7 figures. This could ruin us. I let the silence sit heavy, then answered flatly. If this can sink you, Robert, maybe the ship was never built to float. He didn't argue. Just exhaled, broken, and hung up. Friday night, Carla stayed late. She wrote that the executives were shuffling in and out of sealed rooms, food deliveries piling up at the door. Legal, HR, finance all locked together. No one meets eyes in the halls anymore. The cracks weren't hidden now. They were glaring. All from one simple CC. Funny, really. For years I'd been invisible, the quiet woman by the supply closet, fixing problems no one cared about. My emails ignored. My memos skimmed. My work dismissed as routine. Suddenly, I wasn't invisible. My name was on the audit files. My forward email was taped to HR's door like a warning sign. Employees whispered about it in break rooms. The trigger. I hadn't shouted. I hadn't staged a walkout. I hadn't burned a single bridge. I just flicked on the inspection light. Sunday evening, I sipped red wine on my couch, the city buzzing outside my window. I picture that tower, the frantic copying of files, the nervous glances at auditors, the whispered blame games. And it hit me. This wasn't revenge. Revenge is messy, loud, chaotic. This was something sharper. This was accountability. Accountability. For years, they trained me to stay small, to accept, to never step outside my lane. But the truth is, sometimes the smallest action echoes the loudest. And this reckoning? It was only just beginning. The audit stretched across 3 full weeks. 3 weeks of investigators combing through records, asking questions, scribbling quiet notes that made executives sweat through their press suits. I wasn't there, but I didn't need to be. The news traveled regardless, through Carla, through old coworkers, even through the silence on LinkedIn where managers who once bragged daily suddenly vanished. The conclusion came sealed in a letter. Just 2 paragraphs. Cold. Precise. Crushing. The company had failed to classify dozens of workers correctly for years. Overtime had been withheld from staff expected to respond at all hours. Contractors had been misused, mislabeled, and mismanaged. The punishment: back pay, fines, and interest. 7 figures. Not a slap on the wrist. Enough to shake investors. Enough to land in headlines. Carla texted me the day it dropped. Linda, it's chaos. Emergency, all hands. CFO looks like he hasn't slept in a week. Janice is pale as paper. People are whispering layoffs. Serious ones this time. I read it twice, then closed my laptop. Because this was never the ending I'd wished for. I hadn't dreamed of collapse. I hadn't wanted them ruined. All I'd ever wanted was acknowledgement. Proof that my quiet work mattered. That compliance wasn't disposable. But sometimes the only way to reveal the cracks is to let the whole building tremble. A week later, Robert called again. His voice was softer now, thin and worn. Linda, the board wants answers. Investors are furious. We're staring down millions.
Why?
Why would you do this? I let him finish, then spoke evenly. I didn't do this, Robert. You did. All of you. I just asked a question. The rest was always there. Silence stretched. I could picture him, alone in his office, blinds drawn, stacks of papers piled like sandbags, drowning in the negligence he'd once waved off as not urgent. Finally, he whispered, "We might not survive this." I didn't gloat. I didn't even raise my voice. I only said, "Maybe you shouldn't have called it a favor." And I hung up. Here's the truth. I wasn't angry anymore. What I felt was closer to peace. For 16 years, I'd carried their failures, patching holes no one noticed, cleaning up messes no one thanked me for. To them, I was replaceable, redundant, invisible. But invisibility had been my shield. They never noticed how much I saw, how carefully I kept files, how I remembered every detail. And in the end, that memory, not anger, not sabotage, was what undid them. The company lived on, technically, downsized, restructured. Robert resigned for personal reasons. Janice slipped away quietly, her reputation dented. They hired a new compliance officer, this time with a seat at the table. Carla said morale was broken, but some employees finally believed change was possible. Policies were rewritten. Time logs mattered. And my name, once ignored, was whispered now in hallways. Sometimes with resentment. Sometimes with respect.
Me?
I didn't return. I began consulting, helping small businesses, nonprofits, startups. The kinds of places that couldn't afford million-dollar mistakes. I taught them how to bake compliance into their bones. And for the first time, people truly listened. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. I was essential. Looking back, the irony is sharp. They fired me because they thought I was redundant, quiet, easy to discard. But the quietest ones are often the ones holding everything together. And sometimes, all it takes to be heard is 4 words and a CC. So here's my message to anyone listening who's ever felt unseen, at work, at home, in their own family. Silence is not weakness. Patience is not surrender. Quiet does not mean powerless. The people who underestimate you are often the ones who hand you the tools to hold them accountable. I didn't burn the building down. I just turned on the lights. And once the lights came on, the truth did everything else.